The member for Melton.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. It's my pleasure to rise today to contribute on the Justice Legislation Amendment Drug Court and Other Matters Bill 2020. I'm pleased that those opposite are not opposing this bill. I would like to thank the Attorney-General and her staff on this important piece of legislation. And I also acknowledge the Minister for Correction and his staff for the great work that they are doing. This is something that I'm very pleased to see, that a sensible, scientific and common sense approach to dealing with the drugs and those affected by drugs in our Victorian community. My experience in my working life as a paramedic and union official has shown me that the nature of drug use in our community is well and truly a health issue. Seeing the prevalence of drugs in society is often seen by first responders like ambulance staff. I and my other union members all know of first-hand experiences in the community. Every member would know of irregular encounters with individuals and the continued devastation their drug use could inflict. Often these individuals would continue in their addictions no matter how hard the criminal justice system came down on them. They pose a risk to themselves, their family and the wider community, and those who responded to them. Every member would also know of patients who started substance abuse at the lower end of offending. It seemed to many in many of these circumstances that people could have been diverted from the serious situations they were in if they had only had intervention earlier in their lives. We are all too familiar that those with substance abuse can really struggle to access treatment in mental health services and in rehabilitation. I'm often approached by people who see the people they care for about to fall further into addiction who can't find rehabilitation services for them. Unfortunately, some of these people end up in our justice system as a result. The pressure substance abuse places on our healthcare system as well as our justice and legal systems is large and costly. That is why I believe the drug court is such a powerful tool that can intervene for some people to change the outcome of their lives. It can be transformational in changing the trajectory of their life and those around them, and has the bonus of reducing the number of potential victims and the huge cost in our health and justice systems. If offending is driven by drug abuse, and if the offending is not of a violent or sexual nature, then there may be an opportunity to treat the underlying drug dependency and set the person on a different path. Rehabilitation requires an intensive, flexible and tailored approach that treats the underlying causes of addiction and criminal behaviour. The drug courts in Victoria and elsewhere have shown to reduce reoffending and encourage social integration by treating the underlying causes of offending behaviour. The intervention into damaging substance use can help turn people's lives around and creates a safer community. It does this by helping put a stop to their criminal offending in the community. We know this because the drug court has operated out of Dandenong Magistrates Court since 2002 and has constantly proven more effective than conventional sanctions such as imprisonment. In 2017, a further drug court was established at the Melbourne Magistrates Court. From these courts, we know that drug and alcohol treatment orders are more successful in preventing recidivism among offenders. An evaluation of the drug court by KPMG in 2015 found a 23% reduction in reoffending over the first 12 months post-completion and a 29% reduction in reoffending over 24 months. A reduction in seriousness of offences, including a 90% reduction in trafficking offences and 54% reduction in violence with weapons offences. This legislation will allow the County Court also to make a drug and alcohol treatment order for a person sentenced for a period of up to 4 years. These will be an intense order involving treatment and supervision and will require a person to address their drug addiction and the root causes of their offending. This is a fantastic outcome for Victoria. For too long, a focus solely on a tough-on-crime approach without addressing the root causes of people's offending has led to repeat offending by those who never really get to address their underlying issues. Counterintuitively, we as a society have often thought that coming down hard on drug crime could by itself stop drug use and bring about less victims in the community. What we have seen for many years are people with substance abuse trapped inside a cycle. Continued substance abuse and more victims. This is because the causes and their addiction are never really addressed. In too many cases, it costs not just quality of life, but millions in taxpayer funds to continue this never-ending cycle. The cost of policing, the courts, and on the healthcare system in addressing those who abuse substances is immense. Drug courts are a far more effective response. If only for fiscal reasons, this new approach with the drug courts are worth it. Exposing low-end offending, non-violent addicts to career criminals in the justice system often results in perpetuating criminal behaviour long-term. This results in overall more victims of crime, not less. Our role in this House is to create a better society in Victoria. Reducing offending rates and not just punitive outcomes is beneficial to all Victorians. Often substance abuse can be directly linked to generational poverty. The trauma that poverty can have on people can often make individuals more at risk of poor mental health outcomes and substance abuse. We also know that often minorities within our community are also more at risk of poverty and emotional harm. As we speak, millions around the world are fully aware of the struggle minority groups often have in dealing with their justice system. Addressing people's health needs relating to substance abuse is one way as a society can help balance a system and divert health problems from becoming criminal justice problems. Giving at-risk communities resources, not rulings, is important to address justice and faith in society. The rates of substance abuse can also be high in our LGBTIQ communities. It is important to understand the influences drug and alcohol have on and the mental health implications of LGBTIQ peoples as they deal with discrimination. Having a justice system that can take into consideration and help address some of these underlying issues is vital. This legislation proposes that the County Court Drug Court would be restricted to offenders who plead guilty to an offence where the offence is not a defined sexual offence or an offence involving the infliction of actual bodily harm, and a sentence of 4 years imprisonment or less would be appropriate. In addition to this eligibility criteria, the offender would need to satisfy other guidelines. For example, an offender must consent to participate in the drug court, must live in a specified catchment area, and must satisfy the court that they are dependent on drugs and/or alcohol and that this dependency contributed to their offending. Once it commences, the County Court Drug Court would be available to an eligible offender regardless of when their offending was committed. The County Court Drug Court would impose drug and alcohol treatment orders. The drug and alcohol treatment orders would be comprised of two parts, a treatment and supervision part and a custodial part that operates for up to 4 years. If an offender complies with the conditions of their drug and alcohol treatment order, they would serve the custodial part of the order in the community. It is important to note that if an offender re-offends or fails to comply with another condition during the custodial part, they would face potential activation of their prison sentence, alongside any sentence imposed for the further offending. The treatment and supervision part of a drug and alcohol treatment order would involve intensive engagement, including attending court for urinalysis and judicial monitoring, as well as drug treatment and vocational training. The government is expanding the drug court model into the county court and also into regional Victoria, with 2 new magistrates' court sites in Ballarat and Shepparton. Often the harm from substance abuse is felt in our regional centres, so I'm pleased to see this expansion. The drug court expansion also supports a broader reform to address mental health needs, such as the priorities of the Royal Commission into Victoria's mental health system, particularly the relationship between mental health and offending and the relationship between mental health and substance abuse issues. This program takes pressures off corrective services, and the County Court Drug Court is likely to reduce demand for social services by improving offenders' relationships, housing stability and life skills. We all know that housing has been a major issue for many in our community, and the government's response to homelessness during this COVID outbreak has been fantastic. It's important that we relieve pressure on housing and social services by any way we can to help further address all these issues. I'm proud to be a member of this government, and I'm proud that we can look into effective fact-based solutions to address the issues that impact society. I am pleased that we are dealing with this as a health issue and allowing people to address the underlying causes of their addictions. I support this legislation and I commend the bill to the House.